I call Chris Hipkins.
Very much, Mr Chair. Mr Chair, there was a time when the National Government promised New Zealanders that it was ambitious for New Zealand. Not only have they not delivered on their ambition for New Zealand, they've made every other New Zealander embarrassed for New Zealand in recent times. Embarrassed for New Zealand. There was a time when John Key promised to raise the standards of government, raise the standards of ministerial behaviour. How can he promise that for other ministers when he can't even deliver on that himself? There was, of course, a time when the National Party promised to get the books back in order. In fact, they declared victory at the last election when they said the books were back in surplus. And yet here we are, 7th budget in a row and 7th deficit in a row, another broken promise for this national government. Because not only have they failed to deliver one single surplus, in fact, they have clocked up the largest government debt in New Zealand's history. Let me repeat that. This government have clocked up the largest government debt in New Zealand's history. So what does that have to do with social services? It massively constrains what government can do in the social service area when they are making such a shambles of their management of the overall economy. Let's look at some of the promises that they've made in the social services area. They promised free doctors' visits for the under-13s. Have they delivered that? No, they have not. No, they have not. They promised better teacher-child ratios in early childhood education for the under-2s. Have they delivered that? No, they have not delivered on that. They promised New Zealanders higher wages at the last election. Have they delivered on that? No, they have not. No, they have not delivered on that promise. In fact, you don't have to look very closely at the National Party manifesto from the 2008 election, the 2011 election or the 2014 election to find a broken promise. They literally litter the country with them like confetti, because this is a government that says whatever it thinks it needs to say to get elected, with no intention whatsoever of delivering on those promises after the election. Because this government have become so arrogant that they simply believe that they are born to rule, that they are the natural party of government and they don't have to earn the trust of New Zealanders. Well, actually they do need to earn the trust of New Zealanders, and they are certainly not doing a very good job of that at the moment, because New Zealanders have had enough of being embarrassed around the world by this government, and they have had enough of having broken promises shoved down their throat, and they've had enough of a government that tells them what they want to hear and then fails to deliver on those things. The Stephen Joyce School of Politics. Ask the voters what they want, give them what they want, or maybe not, and tell them you've given them what they want, even if you actually haven't given them what they want. He misses out the middle bit. So he basically asks them what they want and then tries to tell them that they've already got it. Actually, New Zealanders deserve better from their government. New Zealanders are willing to work hard to get ahead, and they want a government that's going to back them, and they don't have that in the current national government. New Zealand parents want a better future for their kids, and they are willing to work for that, and they are willing to do their part to make sure their kids get the best start in life, and they want a government that's going to do the same. I listened very carefully to Hikia Parata's contribution on this debate when she was talking about education, and I recalled the fact that Hikia Parata's one big idea, her first big idea, and her one big idea, the boldest, most audacious idea that Hikia Parata had to improve educational outcomes for Kiwi kids was bigger class sizes. That was her first major promise to New Zealand parents and New Zealand kids. More kids in every class in front of every teacher. That was Hikia Parata's first major promise, and she had to back down because there was such an outcry from parents. Her second major commitment to the educational community was that she wasn't necessarily going to pay teachers, because she implemented the Nova Pay payroll system, which meant that some teachers waited for weeks and months to simply get paid what they have earned. Forget about pay rises and raising wages. The teachers around the country for months and months just wanted to be paid because of Hikia Parata's absolute incompetence. And what was Hikia Parata's promise to the people of Christchurch? That the government would stand with them during the tough times. They would stand. Hikia Parata and the national government, John Key's national government, stood with the people of Christchurch by closing down a big chunk of their schools at a time when the people of Christchurch had already been clobbered by the Christchurch earthquakes. That was how this government view education. Mr Chair.
Yep. Chris Hipkins.
Thank you very much, Mr Chair. And of course, when it comes to education, we know that the most significant thing a government can do is back the teaching profession, because all of the words of Hikia Parata in this House mean nothing if she's not out there backing teachers, because it's not all Hikia Parata's own work any lift in student achievement. It all comes down to teachers and parents. And what have we seen from this government? An absolute war on teachers around the country. A government that tells parents they cannot trust teachers. A government that tells the public they cannot trust teachers, so much so that they take complete control of the body that regulates the teaching profession. They wouldn't do it to lawyers, they wouldn't do it to doctors, they wouldn't do it to any other major profession. In fact, they filibustered in Parliament when the Labor government tried to regulate more heavily the real estate profession, saying that the government shouldn't do that. They're willing to do that for all those other professions. But when it comes to teachers, oh no, Hikia Parata knows best. She's going to handpick the people who are going to regulate the teaching profession without any democratic input from the profession itself, and that says everything about this government's attitude when it comes to education. Because on the one hand, while they say they want to raise the standard of teaching, of course, we know how hollow that is, because when it comes to charter schools, they don't even have to have registered teachers at all. So much for raising the standards of teaching in New Zealand when charter schools don't even need to employ registered teachers at all. Of course, the government are willing to pump millions of dollars more into charter schools, into a handful of charter schools, than they would put into any public school in New Zealand. So desperate are they to make their charter school experiment work, when actually any state school in the country could do amazing things with that money if they were given the opportunity to do so. I want to acknowledge the hard work and dedication of the many people who make up our education system: the teachers, the support staff, the principals, the boards of trustees, the parents. They are working hard to achieve great things for kids, and they are doing it in spite of a government that does not back them in doing so. Hikia Parata talked about increases in Māori and Pasifika achievement. So here's a simple question for Hikia Parata. If things are getting so much better for Māori and Pasifika young people, why is it that they are still the most likely to be represented in unemployment statistics? Why is it that in record levels they're leaving the education system with whatever level of qualification they have and going on to do nothing? No job, no further training, they are leaving and doing nothing. Why is that? If the government's education platform has been so successful, why have the record levels of people leaving the school system to do absolutely nothing? Because if we're going to judge the success of the government's education policy, surely the outcome that matters is what happens to the kids when they leave. Isn't that the point of the education system? To prepare people for the world in which they will enter? And yet we've got record levels of kids leaving and going on to do absolutely nothing, because we've got a government that has failed to create the right environment for jobs, that has absolutely failed to make sure that there is opportunity for those kids when they leave. 7 years of national government, and there is still no light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to those big, important issues like what kids are doing when they leave school. Because this government are simply beset by scandal. Beset by scandal. They have completely lost track of the things that matter. On the other hand, but I'll tell you what, Mr Chair, I said that there wasn't light at the end of the tunnel. There is, because there is an election in 2017 and the Labor Party will be ready, because it will be a very clear contest. It'll be a very clear contest between a leader and Andrew Little, whose word can be trusted, who New Zealanders know that if he says he's going to do something about early childhood education like John Key did, he'll actually deliver on it. If he promises better and better outcomes in education, he'll deliver on it. And a leader over there who tells New Zealanders whatever they want with absolutely no intention of delivering on it, who embarrasses New Zealand regularly on the world stage, who has got more publicity for New Zealand by embarrassing us than he ever got in his role as Minister for Tourism. They know, New Zealanders will know in 2017, when it comes to making the choice between a government on this side that will deliver and a government on there that's full of promises with no real delivery. They know exactly what side they will be better off under. Education is so important to New Zealand's future. early childhood education, increasing participation is a great thing. That is very good. But increases in quality participation is important. So why is the government lowering the standard at the same time as participation is increasing?
I call the